on the road right now, coming to you from Cleveland, Ohio, where we will be doing a quick, very short, but hopefully it's pretty cool, and location number one is cool, ghost tour of Cleveland, self-guided. We are in an old historic district, lots of beautiful houses around here, but maybe nothing more interesting or unique than Franklin Castle, which is hiding behind this tree right here. As we come into view, you might recognize that it was in a recent episode of Ghost Adventures. But this is a place I've heard about, I think, since I began researching haunted locations in the late 90s. The house was built in the 1880s. It has a long history of tragedy. A number of children died here, mysterious circumstances. Not to say that they were murdered, but we just don't know. The place in the 1930s was used as a Nazi meeting point. So yes, there's a lot of dark history behind it. But you also can't deny just how beautiful this building is. Walking past it, not sure what this is. Looks like a really cool, equally old park. I have no idea what this is. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention that apparently when owners took over the building just a few decades ago, and you know, much more recent times, human remains, human bones were found encased within a closet. So maybe in one of the walls, I'm not exactly sure on that one. But yes, there's definitely a lot of dark history there. No wonder it's haunted. So I see we have Stations of the Cross here. I don't see a church, but obviously some sort of a religious location right next door to a famously darkly haunted location, Franklin Castle. As we head out, last I heard, an independent record label had moved into that building. I was hoping that maybe we'd be kind of open for business. Don't want to disturb them, but also if the doors were open, I was going to knock and say hello. But who knows? Maybe it's private residence once again. They were doing renovation work in the historic house right next door. So this is interesting. It's a cool, very, very cool neighborhood, but it might be in flux a little bit right now. There's definitely lots of these old houses that are just falling apart. But then you see stuff like that where it's been renovated, there are people in there, and maybe hopefully it's a neighborhood on the upswing. Next, we will head into downtown where there's a whole bunch of stuff in a very short area. So that's gonna be a lot of fun to see. All right, we are in downtown Cleveland, right at Public Square right now, which makes me think of Union Square in Boston. A place where every streetlight is red all the time, it seems. And any open parking spot is a bus stop or a taxi stop. But anyway, look at this huge series of connected hotels down here. I don't know if they're really connected, but they look like that from here. We're actually just focusing on this series of 3 towers right here. That is the Renaissance Hotel, one of the oldest hotels in Cleveland. The ghost stories associated with it are very benign, just guests that like to play, turn lights on and off, things of that nature. It is old, but we don't really have a lot of information. I did a very, very brief look around. The only reason I'm mentioning that is because we have 2-in-1 right here. Because if we look across Public Square, we are right across from the Soldiers and Sailors Memorial. We'll get a better look at this before we start talking about its ghost stories. Has catacombs underneath that are allegedly haunted by Civil War era soldiers. So we're just gonna get some views of the location, see if we can stop inside. It's actually open today. And what a lucky day for us to have stopped by. They had just finished the ceremony here that was celebrating the headstone dedication of Daniel R. Fields. Fields was born in Louisiana in the mid-1800s, and once the Civil War ended, he decided to make his way out of the South and into Canada. But he found Cleveland to be a friendly location and decided to make home here. He's even depicted in one of the most striking statuary panels within the memorial. The memorial itself celebrates all Cleveland residents who served in the Civil War and also acts as a sort of museum with artifacts on display. As an interesting footnote, Daniel's headstone is actually made with granite left over from the construction of this public square. I just spoke with a wonderfully kind and informative docent, I suppose, about this location as far as hauntings are concerned. You know, the legends are that there are catacombs underneath the area, and he said he confirmed that there are, but you know, you think of catacombs being directly underneath ground level, but really they are in this area here. So there are hallways and whatnot, but just underneath where you see the stairs, underneath the platform level, if you will. He had never heard of any ghost stories himself. He's never seen anything himself. The people he works with haven't experienced anything, but he does say people come by all the time asking that exact question. So hey, just because he hasn't experienced it doesn't mean it isn't true. But yeah, we'll keep our hunt on. I am now at the Erie Street Cemetery. It is a beautiful, very old cemetery. I don't know when this was founded. I could try to find that out. Right in downtown Cleveland. And these grounds are allegedly haunted by a Native American Sioux chief who went by the name of Joc-o-sot. And the guess at why he is haunting these grounds is that his preference when he passed away was actually to be buried on, hold on one second, I gotta show something that's creepy and fascinating. A grave that is been completely dug out by some animal. My guess is an animal did that, but it's so wild that ancient looking headstone is completely falling into the crypt, as we have a huge beaver running across the grounds right in front of us. I wonder if that's who was digging up the graves there. Okay, yeah, I'm an idiot. That is a groundhog, not a beaver. What can I say? I'm a city kid. Not exactly. Oh yeah, it looks like a big hole. So they have an unusual rodent problem, and here's another toppled headstone with a large hole by it. Obviously they have some work to do. Caddyshack 3 should take place right here in this cemetery, maybe. I do not want to piss off any angry wild animals. I don't want this video to go viral for the wrong reasons. Not something that you expect to see at a cemetery. Again, getting back to the story of why Joc-o-sot is haunting these grounds, not at rest, which is because when he passed away, he was traveling, and from the sounds of it, he wished to be interred in Wisconsin on some reservation grounds, and for whatever reason was brought back here. More research needs to be done to decide exactly why it went down as it did. But we're gonna see. It's a bigger cemetery than I thought it was gonna be. Again, just walking around, seeing what we can see if we can find his headstone. This is a unique looking grave. Illegible, unfortunately. Might have to do more online research to find out what some of these more unique looking graves are. But something else to note is that that's the Cleveland Guardians, formerly the Cleveland Indians Stadium, overlooking this pioneer era cemetery. Pretty wild. Also, for the fact that we are very close to downtown, it's very, very much still part of the city. I'm the only one in here. It is very quiet, other than the animals that have unfortunately taken this place over. We just saw somebody go down there. There's another hole there. What in the world? There are two mass burial graves here, marking two different disasters in Cleveland history. One was for the Griffith, a passenger steamship that sank in 1850. There's a marker that says 1847, but I think that's incorrect. The loss of life was between 241 and 289 people that died. The greatest loss of life in the Great Lakes up to that point, and is the third largest today behind the Eastland disaster and Lady Elgin.
The others were victims of a 1916 tunnel explosion that happened beneath Lake Erie. Tunnels needed to be dug out for sewage drainage to clean the water line and keep people safe as the city of Cleveland was growing. Unfortunately, a crew of 11 people hit a natural gas deposit and they died. 10 more people died attempting to rescue that crew. Finally, it was an African-American inventor, Garrett A. Morgan, and his brother Frank, who had a breathing device that they created, that I think Garrett created, who were able to go in and actually save 2 people, marking a small silver lining to this tragedy.
Here we are. Fortunately, it is clearly marked, easy to find. The original headstone has fallen probably a long time ago, and as you see, cracked. But I do like that they preserved it in a way and erected a new stone. It said Joc-o-sot, not exactly sure the pronunciation there. Born in Louisiana, died in Cleveland. Right next to him is another native stone, another chief. Died in 1950. Pretty impressive. The back of the stone. The walking bear, a distinguished Sauk chief. 1810 to 1844.
I did conduct a short EVP session at the Chiefs Monument, but got no responses.
Again, just so wild having a baseball stadium, Major League Stadium, looming over this location. Wow. The original cemetery chapel from 1880 was at this foundation here.
Yet another groundhog. Just going along, digging up history.
What in the world? I thought that was a squirrel, but maybe it's a young beaver? No, that's a squirrel. It has a huge tail. Like a monkey tail. What the hell is that thing? I'm pretty close to it. It's not that concerned with me. Okay, they got some weird ass animals in here. I didn't know this place had cryptids too. Gosh, there's just more and more destruction. I'm afraid to get near any of these in case some wild animal comes running out at me. One last look at Cleveland Guardian Stadium and the Erie Street Cemetery, which absolutely lives up to its name of being eerie. I thought it was going to be kind of a sad story due to the Native American chief not having his last wishes honored, and it is that, but it's also sad because of the state of disrepair it's in. I mean, it's not beyond repair, but some work absolutely needs to be done to take care of the wildlife out here that is ruining this historic cemetery.
Now, before we leave this area fully, just wanted to take another quick look. Here is the Cleveland Guardians Stadium. As you see, this has not been updated as the old sign. Old team name is still on there. But just over the right field wall, here we have the cemetery, the Erie Street Cemetery. Kind of amazing in a world of baseball where it's all about legends and lore and superstitions that there isn't a quote-unquote curse, like you had the curse of the Bambino, the Cubs curse of the goat, on and on. It's surprising that there's not a curse of the Native American chief who was unhappy right across the street back when this team was known as the Indians. But anyway, here we do have this 8-acre cemetery just right across the street. Chief Joc-o-sot is very much in this area here, just to the right of the street. And our next haunted location we're going to go to, we don't have to go very far. We are heading to this very unique building right here. This building that butts up against the cemetery was the Armory for the Cleveland Greys, which was a volunteer militia for the Civil War. Really unique building, as you see, even from this aerial, full of cars. It is a building that is in use today, so we couldn't get inside. But there are a number of hauntings associated with this building. I would love to see what it looks like inside. But there are Civil War era soldiers that are seen. There is a woman in white who is seen dancing. Oftentimes, she's attributed to the possibility that this was a speakeasy during Prohibition. There's also the ghost of a construction worker seen here, and a former caretaker. His pipe smoke is still smelled here, and that's something that we have seen at other locations as well. Both the Pantages Theater, Howard Hughes, he hated smoke, he hated cigarette smoke, but still that's associated with his ghost. And at the Chapel Building in Lake Forest College, a former security guard's pipe smoke is still smelled there as well. Now to say our final location in Haunted Cleveland is spooky because it's an abandoned funeral home is just completely burying the lead. Let's head away from the Armory and over to the House of Wills. Now usually you think of a funeral home being, well, roughly the size of a home. But the House of Wills here is huge. Look how far back that goes. It started out as a German community building and eventually was a very important meeting place during the Civil Rights Movement. And of course, later became a quirky, strange funeral home that had themed rooms. There was an Egyptian room and a cloud room and probably much more. Big shout out to the Cleveland Plain Dealer, who my whole self-guided tour is based on an article that they wrote a while back. I will link that in the description. But again, just look at the size of this building, which has been shuttered since 2005. Apparently, at one point, they did open for paranormal investigations, but I'm not sure if that's going on anymore. If anybody has information on how to get into this place, drop me a line, because I would love to see what this place looks like inside now. It is in a somewhat rough part of town, too, as you can kind of see by the surrounding buildings. Not a lot going on in this area. This would be a great place for a paranormal investigation TV show. I don't even care which one, but somebody has got to get in there and check this location out. There's not a lot of specific information on how and what way it's haunted, other than the fact that it was a funeral home, has a lot of history, and looks very creepy and is falling apart today. So it might just be a case of the place looking like it should be haunted, so everybody assumes it is. I would love to find out more information, and of course, I would love to get in here myself. But that is it for our tour of Cleveland. Again, one more shout out and thanks to the Cleveland Plain Dealer for putting the article together that I based my little tour on. There was a lot more locations in that article, so definitely check it out. But in the meantime, if we're talking about Cleveland or anywhere else in the world, I always want to know, what's your ghost story?